The Garden Report is brought to you by FanDuel, the exclusive wagering partner of the CLNS Media Network.
It happened.
Yeah.
The thing we couldn't decide if we wanted to have happened.
Yeah,
Happened.
and we're gonna sit here still torn about it, but excited because at our core, we all sat there a few days ago and said,
Yeah.
this guy's special. We want this guy. But what are you giving up? And you gave up a lot.
I mean, this was always the framework, right? And so welcome into everybody here. And I honestly, like, I haven't spoken yet since it happened. And like, you know, first the alert crosses Celtics get Jrue Holiday from Woj. And immediately it's like, please no Rob, please no Rob, please no Rob, please no Rob. And then Shams reports it and doesn't include Rob's name in there either. And I was like, oh, there's a chance. And then 2 minutes later, boom, Rob.
It was never going to be the Hauser Griffin.
We knew that. We knew that. We knew that.
Yeah.
We knew it. The question was always, and when we came down to it on this last show, would it be Al? Would it be Rob? I know you have your opinions, Bobby. I honestly think you're in the minority. I think obviously Rob is more coveted. There's risk involved with Rob. But I mean, again, he's younger on a great contract. And, you know, someone you thought might have been a building block going forward. And this was the first year off season that you had a shot at seeing what he would look like healthy. And I really wanted to see it. You know, there's an interview with Forsberg this morning and he's all geeked up. He's a guy everybody loves. Like, I think the guys are going to be excited and bummed because I think Rob is like a little brother there that they're losing. I think Tatum's going to be bummed out. I honestly, like,
Tatum loves him.
I'm legit like bummed, you know, like not having Rob here really bums me out. I get all the reasons why you do this. And, you know, we kind of went over a lot of this before, you know, like what it's going to look like and how thin they would be if they make this move. And that's where we are. They make the move. They are super, super, super thin everywhere. And that's that. I'm curious what people here in the chat think. But yeah, I mean,
where do you want to start? The Rob piece?
I mean, I don't know. Let's just say,
let's go back to when the show started, 2020. You loved Rob from the day you saw him in the bubble.
I know.
And then next year, they're not playing him a ton. The following year, he tears the meniscus after that 25-game stretch. We'll always talk about the 25 games where they went 22-3. Best defense any of us had ever seen with the Rob Horford duo, Ime coaching, the scheme, the whole thing. It's crazy how fast all of that's gone. Ime, Smart, Rob. It stinks. I mean, in many ways, I've had my doubts about Rob, and I like him being in this deal just because I continue to have my doubts about him. But when he was right, when he was on, he really was maybe the most exciting player I've ever seen in a Celtics uniform. The stuff he could do, protecting the rim, in the pick and roll, it was special. And the problem with it was you just never knew. 35 games last year. Didn't quite look the same for much of it. And you were on that, John, for much of the year, just how unathletic he looked at times, at least compared to the year before. Ends up on the bench. In all probability, would have ended up on the bench this year, I think, you know, trying to figure out that double big combination there. So you had to do it.
I love it. I love it.
The CLNS Media Network is powered by FanDuel. Sign up at FanDuel.com/Boston and get in on the action with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place a $5 bet. That's $200 in bonus bets, win or lose.
Good afternoon, fellas.
The Celtics breaking news before Sherrod can even have his AG1.
I know. I'm literally in the middle of using my frother to make it perfect. And I'm like, hey, Malcolm, bye-bye, Malcolm. Hello, Jrue.
So let's, Bobby, not to interrupt, just because we're bringing Sherrod in here, and I think it's worth pointing out. Sherrod and Jimmy were definitive. They do this deal with Rob. I emotionally couldn't really answer that question, though I think at the end of the day, you still take the swing because you have to look at what Rob actually is instead of what you want Rob to be and what you hope Rob will be. And the reality is somebody whose days are probably numbered and whose knee is, the Patriots joked about, there was a report about Juju Smith-Schuster's knee about to explode. Like Rob's knees are about to explode. Like he's a legit ticking time bomb. But it's true. The highs are so high. It makes sense. This is an incredibly aggressive all-in move by Brad Sherrod.
I'm listen. See,
this is the opposite of Danny. Danny wouldn't let stuff go. Brad's like, take everything. I want as many stars
trade
as possible.
Trade the picks, baby.
And trade the picks and everybody else and young players, and I don't care. I want the guys I want, and he got them.
We always talk about coaches and players and GMs who are in win now mode. Brad doesn't talk about it. He is about it. This is a win now mode. There is nothing about this deal that looks beyond this season. That is why you're doing
maybe
this
two.
If
he opts in, and then you can figure it out. Yeah.
Right, exactly. And the thing about it is if you're adding, and it makes a lot of sense if you start to think about it. If you're adding impact players that can help you win now, if for some reason they don't work out, what do? You move them. Malcolm Brogdon, they brought him in here to help them win a championship. Clearly that didn't pan out. So what are they going to do? They're moving him on to some other guys who they think, or another guy who they think can help them get a chip. And when you look at the way the East is starting to shape up now, if we're being honest and real about it, everyone other than Boston and Milwaukee is playing for a participation trophy because they're the only two teams that you can look at right now.
You're going to count out Miami again?
Yes, I'm going to count out Miami again.
I'm scared.
Yes,
I'm too scared to do
Miami,
it.
I am
Miami
not.
just has they not only did they not add the superstar player, they lost important players. They're losing guys. They're losing streaks.
So that's what you got to be most excited about.
Their bit players that were killing you are going away. Like they're Miami's in trouble. We say this every year and count them out. And there's probably no athlete in sports I admire and respect more than Jimmy Butler, honestly. So like his will alone, sure, they're always going to be annoying, but man, did you separate yourself from a talent perspective. Amazingly, look back, if we were to find a show, this is where it's very interesting. If we were to find a show from a couple of years ago when the Celtics were kind of languishing a little bit, and you just looked overall pre-Derek White trade, just around the room at the overall talent on this team, and you're like, man, they have to level up. The problem here is the drop from Tatum and Brown to everybody else is big, right? There's nobody you can even pretend is a number 3, right? And that carried almost even into last year, even though you had more talented players. But look at what you've leveled up in terms of the ceiling and the caliber of players you've brought in. Derek White and what he turned into last year, Kristaps Porzingis, and now Jrue Holiday. Like Porzingis is your 4th best player, like maybe 5th.
That's ridiculous.
Porzingis is your 5th best player probably all around. That's insane. So again, we're going to talk about depth and this and that. Absolutely. But now it comes down to roster construction. Do you have enough role players to play the roles you need them to play? Whatever you get out of Hauser, shoot. Whatever. We got to stop lamenting what Hauser can't do and what Brissett can't do and what these guys can't do, and just recognize everyone else has a very specific job. Scoring and a whole bunch of other stuff is absolutely taken care of here. Mm-hmm. You have stars everywhere. I mean, it's an amazing amount of talent here.
You have defense everywhere too again, which is great.
Yeah. Your defense has done a 180 from like 48 hours ago. 24 hours ago to where it's at now.
Yeah.
So that's the biggest reason I want to
lament Rob, and you want to bemoan, the overall package, what you gave. I mean, the picks don't matter. They don't for stars. They do for like small upgrades, because you do have to refresh and replenish along the way, but they don't matter for stars because chances are you're just not, that's not going to be.
And one of these picks isn't yours. It's the Warriors.
Yeah, it was Golden State's anyway. So you basically gave away the 29 here, the 29 pick.
And now that this, and I was just going to get to this, obviously I wasn't a huge fan of the Smart Porzingis deal, but connecting it with this, everything makes a lot more sense, doesn't it? And I think you said it, John, for all the people who said you lost a ton in Smart in the room and at the point of attack defensively and the energy and grit, there was really no better player to replace Smart with than Jrue Holiday. In fact, as you've said, it's an upgrade here. So that makes everything on this front make a lot more sense. You cashed in the pick you got back for Smart from the Warriors. So it's hard not to like this just because of
But it
how
hurts.
good the player is here in Holiday. And I know a lot of people love Rob, so it hurts for a minute, but people will like it in time.
Yeah, they're going to be games without question that you're going to see, damn, Rob would have helped us win this game. But I'm pretty confident that there are going to be more nights where you're going to be like, wow, Jrue really stepped up in the third quarter to limit so-and-so to 2 for 6 shooting. Or, Porzingis really came through with big shots in the fourth quarter. Or Tatum, was 5 for 17, but they still won by 17 because Jrue Holiday had 30 points. This deal gives them a much greater cushion for their best players to not be at their best, and you still win. And ultimately, you're going to need your role players, your non-Tatum, your non-Brown guys to step up. And now they've got bigger, better, badder players that can make that happen on a consistent basis. And it positions you to do exactly what this season is going to be all about, and that's winning a championship.
And I think something not lost, but something we haven't talked about yet. We've talked about the defense. We've talked about scoring. We've talked about leveling up talent-wise. This to me is the big cherry on top. Is just a better decision maker than what they've had with the other 3 guys before them. Okay. It's a person I'm more comfortable with the ball in his hands than anybody who we've had running point who are really not true point guards. I have much more.
You gotta go back to Rondo.
Yeah. I have much more confidence in Jrue's ball handling now. And I said this, Bobby, we would have realized very quickly that what Derek White wasn't, which is a shame because we would lose sight of what he is, but he's not. You would end up with a lot of point Tatum and a lot of stuff you didn't want, and the ball in those guys. And I don't like that offense. I don't like that team. Sure, the offense will flow through Tatum from time to time and it spells, but you would have had it running through Tatum a lot this year. And I think that kills you for the type of team that you want to be. Pace and space, really get it going, get good shots, play fast, play aggressive, move the ball, move without the ball. I just don't think you get that here. Now you're freeing these guys up to just be themselves. And you've just added another guy who, he's a 40% 3-point shooter the last 3-4 years in the NBA. You've got people who can shoot it everywhere finally, and so when they defer off of those, you have 2 things. You've got both the playmaking and there's no more slacking off of Smart trying to coax Tatum and Brown into swinging it back to the point guard and letting him jack a 31% 3. Now you've got a guy who can actually knock him down. It changes how defenses are going to play these guys because you just can't. It's just going to be really, really, really challenging. You can't force the ball into the hands of Rob. When you're playing Rob on the floor, Smart on the floor at the same time, there's just not enough shooting out there. There just wasn't.
I was always worried about how Porzingis and Rob were going to fit together offensively.
It was going to be weird.
You could have imagined Rob standing around doing nothing and clogging up the lane, especially when you want Porzingis involved in those actions. Now, this does put the spotlight back on Porzingis. You're out there alone. They're probably going to start Jrue and White, right? That's what I'd have to imagine they're going to do here. I don't think they're going to send White back to the bench. So he's the only big out there. And he doesn't have the strongest core. Guys can definitely get into him at times, some of the bigger centers, and he'll be guarding those guys again. So this does put a lot on him at that position there. He brings a lot of length to the table. I'm sure they'll scheme it up in different ways to help him out. But Tatum's back at the 4. Brown sliding over to the 3 again. You're back to small ball to some degree. Fortunately, Holiday's so versatile at that point guard spot that he can guard so many different positions, and you probably can get back to a lot more switching.
But you know what, Bobby? It puts a little bit more, I think, of a focus on Joe Mazzulla.
Yeah.
Because now you've got the type of pieces that have experience. They have, they've played together a little bit. You've got a guy with championship medal in the mix. Your
Another
job
great point.
is to put them in the best position to be successful. To your point, Bobby, they are going to have to play a little bit differently because they don't have that type of physicality that you obviously would want in the middle. But you know what? That's where your coach earns his check. This is where we're going to find out whether Joe Mazzulla is making the kind of growth that you need to make to be a championship caliber coach, or are you just a really good coach who can kind of manage the shop and make profits and make wins and things like that, but maybe not get them over the hump. I'm excited about the opportunities that Joe Mazzulla is going to have because he has pretty much everything you could possibly want. And remember, we're not even talking about Al Horford, who, again, we don't expect Al to play 70 games, but Al is going to, I think, help cushion a little bit of that lack.
Keeping
of
Al was important. It really was.
I think having Al go back, I think, a little bit to the pre-3-point shooting Al and be a little bit more on the block now. I think this might be the year to kind of cut back on the threes and have him play a little bit more closer to the rim, because they need it. They're going to need that.
Yeah, and I wouldn't mind still seeing him play the 4, staggering in a little bit if Porzingis can push to 35 minutes a night.
You can't resist the double big, can you?
In rotation, in rotation. I wouldn't start those. I wouldn't start those two together. But you do still have Kornet behind these two if you do want to do it on a certain night. If the other team's bigger, there might be some matchups where that still works. So
I thought we got at least 20 minutes without mentioning Luke.
15 minutes in, Kornet.
I thought 20. I thought the
Kornet survived. I wasn't ready to give up Kornet, John.
Tim's here for you.
Ever wish you could navigate the betting field with the confidence of a pro? Enter Odds Are. They're not a sports book, but they're the sports betting advisor you always needed. It's like having a playbook for smarter bets right in your pocket. I've been absolutely loving the experience, and I think you will too, especially since Celtics All Access listeners get a 30-day free trial. Elevate your game day and join the smart betting revolution. Go get it at oddsr.com/Celtics. That's oddsr.com/Celtics.
Kornet survives. Pritchard survives. Hauser survives. So you're high on Hauser too now, stepping up into a bigger role, John.
I'm not high on it. I have the same philosophy, and it's driven me nuts forever. Like, it's everybody can't be everything. If they were, they'd all make $45 million. Like, it doesn't work that way. Like, nobody has guys who can shoot and dribble and defend and all of that. They don't. Those guys get paid max deals. The other guys just play roles. Like, they do the best they can. You know, with a person like Hauser, he's just got to be there to shoot. And if you have a lineup where there's space and you put him out there with other guys that you have to account for, he's just going to be taking wide open threes all day, which is what you want. And if they have to extend out to Hauser, it's just going to free up driving lanes for your other players. So again, you put him out there to do one thing and then you let him do it. And that's it. And you live with whatever else happens. You live with Pritchard, you live with flaws. Everyone can't be a perfect player, but in crunch time, when you need it and when you've got it. Oh, and first of all, look around the East right now. Depth isn't really a thing anybody is valuing now. So there's a lot of teams that are going to be, putting guys out there in their 7, 8, 9, 10 role that aren't necessarily going to threaten you anyway. So it doesn't matter as much.
Especially on that Milwaukee side.
Yeah, exactly. So, like, I mean, if you're looking at it as a 2-horse race, Milwaukee's got some real depth issues as well, too.
Well, let's go back to that Horford point, too, when it comes to depth, because you have to think he'll be the backup center. Sherrod wants to see him playing more center style again in that role.
Yes.
I love his ability defensively at that position. Offensively, I do think the usage last year was probably due in part to his decline around the rim, and we'll see if he can regain some of that. I think he'll be 38 this year. The miles are just massive, but again, I wanted him being part of this team. You could only rip out so much leadership. You could only rip out so much of what they were before, and he's still a big part of that. Plus, he's still the best option to defend the Embiids and Giannis's of the world when it comes time for that. But do you need a little more center depth now? Did you lose a little too much at the 5 with Rob being gone here?
I think it depends on how you use Al. I mean, I think Al can really take a lot of those big man minutes and call him his own. Because here's the thing. You don't necessarily need Al in terms of spacing the floor if you've got Porzingis and you've got Tatum and you've got Jrue and you've got Brown and you got Hauser. I mean, why do you really need your center to be able to shoot 35% from three-point range? No, you need Al, I think, to provide a presence around the block more so that can open things up for your shooters. Force defenses to actually react to him now and go back to doing the things that made you a 5-time All-Star. Al was a really good scorer around the rim. And while he can't do that at the same level he did 8, 9, 10 years ago, he still can be a presence for you down on the block. I just think that at this point, if you're Joe Mazzulla and you're looking around at all the nice, shiny toys you got to play with, some of those toys you got to put in a different box than you had them in previously. And Al, to me, I think is one of those pieces. He needs to be on the block more this year. He absolutely needs to be on the block more.
High post too.
I don't disagree. Sure, absolutely. You don't want to just camp him out at the 3-point line and leave it there, but also you have that flexibility if that's what ends up happening, and you have a guy who can step out there and shoot it. And again, you have to take into consideration, like everyone's going to say, hey guys, well, Brogdon and Al were like, number 2 and number 3 in the league in 3-point shooting last year. Yes. What does that mean for this year? Regression to the mean. Like,
I was worried about Brogdon going into this year. I really was.
I was worried Brogdon might be like,
checked out.
No, if not checked out, 56, like 70% of what you got last year, whether it was a health thing or whatever, but the shooting I don't think was sustainable. I don't think that's his level, 45% from 3. I mean, it's like the 1 year Al did that and everyone's like, whoa, I think
by the way, there's a different different tenor to Brad saying, yeah, Brogdon's really healthy. He's ready to go. They want it now.
Yeah.
There really is.
Look,
ready to go to another team.
Yeah.
He didn't give you the last end of that. Yeah.
Yeah. The whole thing is pretty funny, actually. It really is. But, you might have seen, I just want to put it out. It's pinned in the chat as well. Media Day is tomorrow. And we will be live there at Celtics Media Day, and
hopefully Jrue's there.
We'll be pumping out press conferences early. I'm curious if Holiday is there or not, but
I doubt it.
But if you guys want to watch, the reaction is going to be amazing here because, I mean, this is fresh news. Not only the addition, it's our first chance to talk to these guys about literally everything, and it's going to be, I'm sure, some sadness about Rob, some excitement over Holiday. But it's the first time we're getting a chance to talk to these guys. So if you want to take it in with us, click on the link here, subscribe. We've already kind of set it up. Turn on your notifications. You'll be notified. We're just going to roll that thing all day long and just be pumping out those press conferences. Bobby will be down there. I'll be down there. Josue, Sherrod, I'm not sure if teaching allows you to break free and pop down for a little bit, but we'll be hanging out. We'll be reporting on it throughout the day. So you definitely want to keep it to CLNS Media for all of the latest and greatest.
With the busy fall season already in swing, you might be looking for wholesome, convenient meals for jam-packed days. Factor, America's #1 ready-to-eat meal kit, can help you fuel up fast with chef-prepared, dietitian-approved, ready-to-eat meals delivered straight to your door. Head to factormeals.com/newsfeed50 and use code newsfeed50 to get 50% off. That's code newsfeed50 at factormeals.com/newsfeed50 to get 50% off.